Today, I want to speak about a truth that is both timeless and deeply personal: the ever present love of God. In a world often marked by chaos, uncertainty, and pain, where do we find solace? It is in the arms of God, whose love is constant, unchanging, and immeasurable. God's love is not distant or conditional. It is a love that embraces us at our best and holds us even tighter at our worst. It's a love that whispers hope in the silence of despair and brings peace in the storms of life. Whether we're on the mountaintop or in the valley, God's love is always there, guiding us, protecting us, and reminding us that we are never alone. When we understand this love, it transforms how we live. We no longer walk in fear, but in faith. We no longer cling to the temporary comforts of this world, but we rest in the eternal assurance that God is with us and for us. Let us find comfort, strength, and courage in this truth: God's love is ever present. It is the anchor in the turbulent seas of life, and it is the light that leads us home. God's love is constant, and that truth is a foundation we can stand on no matter what life brings. Unlike human love, which can sometimes falter or waver based on circumstances, God's love remains steadfast and unchanging. In a world where so many things are uncertain and fleeting, the constancy of His love offers us a source of comfort and stability that nothing else can match. We often encounter relationships that change over time or are influenced by misunderstandings, failures, or even life's inevitable challenges. But with God, there is no such fluctuation. His love is not based on what we do, how successful we are, or how often we stumble. Instead, it is rooted in His very nature, because God is love. This means that no matter where we are in life, whether we are walking in the light of joy or struggling in the shadows of despair, His love remains the same. It is not diminished by our mistakes, nor is it amplified by our achievements. God loves us fully and completely, just as we are, in every moment of our lives. Such unwavering love is difficult for us to comprehend because it is so different from what we often experience in human relationships. Our limited understanding of love is often transactional or conditional. We feel loved when we do something right or when we meet expectations. But God's love transcends all of that. It is freely given, and it does not depend on our worthiness. Even when we feel unlovable or when we turn away from Him, His love pursues us. It is relentless and enduring, and it does not fail. This constancy is a source of profound comfort. Life is full of changes, and we all face seasons of loss, disappointment, and uncertainty. In those moments, we might feel as though we are standing on shaky ground, unsure of what will happen next or who will stand by us. But God's love is the one thing that never shifts or fades. It is the anchor that holds us steady when everything else feels uncertain. We can rest in the knowledge that He is always with us, His arms open wide, ready to embrace us in every season and situation. When we internalize this truth, it transforms the way we live. We don't have to strive for acceptance or fear rejection, because we are already fully known and fully loved by the Creator of the universe. This gives us a profound sense of security and peace. It allows us to approach life's challenges with courage, knowing that we are never alone. We are held in the hands of a loving God who promises to walk with us every step of the way, no matter how difficult the journey may be. Understanding the constancy of God's love also changes how we see ourselves. It reminds us that our value is not determined by the opinions of others or by the successes or failures we experience. Our worth comes from the fact that we are deeply loved by God. This truth is both humbling and empowering. It frees us from the pressure of trying to earn love and allows us to simply rest in the assurance that we are already loved beyond measure. In a world that is ever changing and often unpredictable, the constancy of God's love is a gift beyond words. It is a reminder that no matter what we face, joys or sorrows, triumphs or trials, we are never without hope. His love is a steadfast presence that carries us through every moment, reminding us that we are cherished, valued, and never alone. This truth has the power to comfort, strengthen, and inspire us as we walk through life, knowing that we are forever held in the unchanging embrace of God's perfect love. God is always present, and this truth is one of the most reassuring aspects of His love. In every moment of our lives, whether we are aware of it or not, God is with us. His presence is not something that comes and goes depending on circumstances. It is constant and unshakable. He is a God who does not leave or forsake His people, no matter what they may face. This ever-present nature of God's love means that we are never truly alone, even in our darkest and most challenging moments. There are times in life when it may feel as though we are walking through the valleys of despair, and in those moments we might question whether God is truly near. Pain, loss, and uncertainty can cloud our awareness of His presence, leading us to feel abandoned or isolated. But the truth of God's Word assures us that He is always with us. Scripture reminds us again and again that He is our refuge and strength, a very present help in trouble. Even when we cannot feel Him, He is still there, surrounding us with His love, guiding our steps and holding us in His hands. This constant presence is not limited to moments of hardship. God is with us in the mundane and ordinary moments of life as well. He is present in the joy of a sunrise, in the laughter shared with loved ones, and in the quiet solitude of prayer. His presence is woven into every part of our existence, offering comfort, guidance, and assurance. There is no place we can go where God is not already there. Whether we ascend to the heights of celebration or sink into the depths of sorrow, His love surrounds us completely. The beauty of God's ever-present love is that it is not contingent upon our awareness or worthiness. We don't have to earn His presence or do anything to deserve it. It is a gift, freely given out of His boundless love for us. Even when we stray or turn away from Him, He does not withdraw from us. Like the loving Father in the parable of the prodigal son, God waits for us with open arms, ready to welcome us back into His embrace. His presence is not just about being near us, it is about being with us in a deeply personal and relational way. In moments of silence or stillness, when the noise of the world fades away, we often become more aware of His presence. It is in these moments that we can hear His gentle whisper, feel His peace, and know that we are loved. But even when life is noisy and chaotic, He is still there, working in ways we may not immediately see or understand. His presence is not dependent on our ability to perceive it. It is a reality that exists beyond our feelings or circumstances. This ever-present nature of God's love gives us incredible comfort and security. It means that no matter what we face, we can rely on Him to be with us, strengthening us and guiding us through every challenge. It also reminds us that we do not have to carry our burdens alone. When life feels overwhelming, we can lean on Him, trusting that He is by our side, walking with us every step of the way. God's presence is not only a source of comfort, it is also a source of transformation. Knowing that He is always with us changes how we approach life. We can face difficulties with greater courage, knowing that we are not alone. We can embrace the unknown with confidence, trusting that He is leading us. And we can find peace in the midst of uncertainty, knowing that His love is steadfast and His presence unshakable. In every season of life, whether in joy or sorrow, triumph or trial, God is there. His presence is a reminder that we are never forgotten, never abandoned, and never without hope. His love surrounds us, sustains us, and carries us forward, offering us the comfort and assurance that can only come from being held in the arms of our ever-present God. God's love is unconditional, and this truth is one of the most profound aspects of who He is. Unlike human love, which can often be influenced by circumstances, actions, or emotions, God's love does not depend on our behavior or worthiness. It is not something we can earn, and it is not something we can lose. It is a love that flows from His very nature, a love that is unchanging, eternal, and completely free of conditions. This kind of love is difficult for us to fully grasp because it is so different from what we experience in the world. Human love often comes with expectations. It can be given or withheld based on performance, behavior, or circumstances. But God's love is entirely different. It is not based on what we do, but on who He is. His love is not transactional, it is transformational. It does not fluctuate based on our successes or failures. Even when we fall short, even when we turn away, His love remains constant. The Bible is filled with examples of God's unconditional love for His people. In the story of the Israelites, we see a people who repeatedly disobeyed and strayed from God's commands, yet He continually called them back to Himself. He provided for them, guided them, and forgave them, even when they didn't deserve it. In the New Testament, the ultimate expression of God's unconditional love is found in Jesus Christ. While we were still sinners, Christ died for us not because we earned it, but because God's love for us is so deep and unshakable that He was willing to pay the ultimate price to bring us back into relationship with Him. God's love is not only unconditional, but also personal. He knows each of us intimately, our strengths, our weaknesses, our joys, and our struggles, and He loves us just the same. There is nothing we can do to make Him love us more, and there is nothing we can do to make him love us less. This truth is both humbling and freeing. It means we don't have to strive for his love or fear losing it. Instead, we can rest in the assurance that we are fully known and fully loved, just as we are. This unconditional love is especially powerful when we face moments of failure or doubt. When we fall short, it's easy to feel unworthy or unlovable. But God's love doesn't work that way. He doesn't wait for us to clean ourselves up or fix our mistakes before he loves us. His love meets us where we are in our brokenness, our messiness, and our struggles and lifts us up. It is a love that forgives, restores, and heals. God's unconditional love also teaches us about grace. Grace is the unmerited favor of God, and it is a direct expression of his love. When we mess up, grace steps in and says, "You are forgiven." When we feel unworthy, grace reminds us that our worth comes from God's love, not our actions. Grace allows us to move forward, not weighed down by guilt or shame, but freed to live in the light of his love. This kind of love has the power to transform our lives. When we understand that we are unconditionally loved by God, it changes how we see ourselves and how we live. We no longer have to seek validation or approval from others because we already have the ultimate source of love and acceptance. This gives us a sense of security and peace that cannot be shaken by life's challenges or disappointments. God's unconditional love also calls us to extend that same kind of love to others. Just as he loves us without conditions, we are called to love others in the same way. This is not always easy, but it is a reflection of God's love working through us. When we show unconditional love to others, we become a tangible expression of God's grace in the world. The beauty of God's unconditional love is that it never ends. It is not limited by time, circumstances, or our own shortcomings. It is a love that pursues us, holds us, and sustains us throughout our lives. In every moment, whether we are at our best or our worst, God's love remains the same. It is a love that offers comfort, hope, and the assurance that we are never alone. In a world where so much is uncertain and conditional, the unconditional love of God is an anchor for our souls, reminding us that we are cherished and valued beyond measure. God's love provides peace in trials, a truth that serves as a source of strength and reassurance in the midst of life's challenges. Trials are an inevitable part of the human experience. Whether they come in the form of illness, loss, uncertainty, or personal failure, these moments can leave us feeling overwhelmed, anxious, and even hopeless. Yet it is precisely in these moments of hardship that the peace of God's love becomes most evident. His love is not merely a comforting idea, it is an active, transformative force that gives us the ability to endure and overcome. When we are in the midst of trials, the natural response is often fear or worry. We may feel as though the weight of the world is on our shoulders and we struggle to see a way forward. But God's love offers a different perspective. It reminds us that we are not alone in our struggles. God walks with us through every valley, offering his strength and guidance when we feel weak and lost. His presence brings a peace that defies human understanding, a peace that quiets our hearts and stills our minds even when the storm around us rages. This peace is rooted in the character of God. He is a God who is faithful, unchanging, and sovereign. His love assures us that he is in control, even when life feels chaotic. Nothing that happens to us is beyond his knowledge or care. Because of his great love, we can trust that he is working all things together for our good, even when we cannot see how. This trust in his perfect plan allows us to release our anxieties and rest in the assurance of his love. The peace of God's love is not dependent on the absence of difficulties. It is a peace that exists in the midst of them. This is why the Bible speaks of the peace of God as something that surpasses all understanding. It is not a peace that comes from external circumstances, but from the internal assurance that we are loved and held by God. This peace gives us the strength to keep going, even when the road is hard, and the courage to face the unknown with faith instead of fear. God's love also provides comfort in trials by reminding us of his promises. He promises never to leave us or forsake us. He promises to be our refuge and strength, a very present help in times of trouble. These promises are not just words, they are the foundation of our hope. When we hold on to these truths, we find that his love becomes a source of deep comfort and stability. Even when everything else seems to be falling apart, we can stand firm in the knowledge that God's love is unshakable. One of the most beautiful aspects of God's love is how it transforms suffering. While no one desires trials, they often become opportunities for us to experience his love in new and profound ways. In our weakness, his strength is made perfect. In our pain, his comfort becomes real and tangible. And in our confusion, his love provides clarity and direction. Trials can deepen our relationship with God, drawing us closer to him as we learn to rely on his love rather than our own understanding or abilities. God's love also brings peace by reminding us of our ultimate hope. No matter what we face in this life, we can have confidence that our struggles are temporary. The love of God points us to an eternal perspective, reminding us that this world is not our final home. Our hope is in him, and his love guarantees that one day all suffering will come to an end. This eternal hope gives us the strength to endure, knowing that our present trials are not worth comparing to the glory that will be revealed to us. God's love gives us the ability to extend peace to others even in the midst of our own struggles. When we experience the peace of his love, it overflows from us and touches those around us. We become instruments of his love, bringing comfort, hope, and encouragement to others who are also facing trials. This is a powerful testimony to the transformative nature of God's love. In every trial, no matter how difficult or overwhelming, the love of God offers peace that cannot be found anywhere else. It is a peace that calms our fears, strengthens our faith, and carries us through even the darkest moments. This peace is a gift, freely given to all who trust in his unfailing love. It is a reminder that no matter what we face, we are never alone, and we are always held in the embrace of a God who loves us beyond measure. God's love brings strength to the weak, offering a powerful and unwavering source of support in moments when we feel powerless. Life is filled with challenges that test our endurance, drain our energy, and sometimes leave us feeling completely overwhelmed. In these moments of weakness, whether physical, emotional, or spiritual, God's love becomes the strength that sustains us and helps us rise above our struggles. His love is not just a comforting idea, but an active force that empowers us to face difficulties with courage and resilience. In our human nature, weakness often feels like failure. Society teaches us to value strength, independence, and self-reliance, and as a result, admitting our limitations can feel like defeat. But God's love turns this perspective upside down. In his kingdom, weakness is not something to be ashamed of. It is an opportunity for his power to be made perfect in us. When we acknowledge our need for him, we open the door for his love to fill the gaps where our own strength falls short. God does not ask us to be strong on our own. He invites us to lean on him, allowing his love to be our strength. The Bible is filled with promises of God's strength for the weak. Isaiah 40:29 tells us he gives power to the faint, and to him who has no might, he increases strength. This verse reminds us that God's love is a source of renewal. When we feel like we have nothing left to give, he steps in and replenishes us, offering the energy and endurance we need to keep going. His strength is not like the temporary boost we might seek from external sources. It is lasting and sustaining, rooted in his unchanging love for us. God's love strengthens us not only in the physical sense, but also in our inner being. There are times when the weight of life's challenges takes a toll on our hearts and minds, leaving us feeling discouraged, fearful, or defeated. In these moments, his love becomes the anchor for our souls, grounding us in the truth that we are not alone. Psalm 73:26 beautifully captures this idea: my flesh and my heart may fail, but God is the strength of my heart and my portion forever. His love lifts us up, restoring hope and giving us the courage to press on, even when the path ahead seems impossible. The strength we find in God's love is not about denying our struggles or pretending that life is easy. Instead, it is about finding a source of power that transcends our circumstances. His love gives us the ability to endure hardships with grace and to face challenges with the assurance that we are held by him. This strength is not something we muster up on our own. It flows from the deep well of his love, which never runs dry. One of the most profound ways God's love strengthens us is by reminding us of our identity in him. When we feel weak, it's easy to believe lies about ourselves that we are inadequate, unworthy, or incapable. But his love speaks a different truth. It reminds us that we are his children, fearfully and wonderfully made and deeply cherished. This truth empowers us to face challenges not with fear, but with confidence, knowing that we are loved by the creator of the universe. God's love also strengthens us by providing us with a community of support. He often uses other people as instruments of his love, surrounding us with friends, family, and fellow believers who can encourage us and help carry our burdens. In these relationships, we see his love in action, reminding us that we are not meant to walk through life's struggles alone. His love flows through others, giving us the strength we need when our own reserves are depleted. In moments of weakness, God's love invites us to surrender our burdens to Him. Matthew 11:28-30 contains Jesus' beautiful invitation, "Come to me, all who labor and are heavy laden, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and lowly in heart, and you will find rest for your souls. For my yoke is easy and my burden is light." This passage reminds us that His love is not just about giving us strength, it is also about giving us rest. When we trust Him with our struggles, we find that His love lightens our load, allowing us to move forward with renewed energy and peace. Perhaps one of the most comforting aspects of God's strengthening love is that it is available to everyone. It does not matter how weak, broken, or undeserving we may feel. His love is not reserved for the strong or the perfect. It is poured out generously for all who seek Him. In our weakest moments, when we feel like we have nothing left, He meets us with open arms, offering the strength we need to take the next step. God's love is a refuge, a source of power, and a wellspring of hope for the weary. It is a love that meets us in our vulnerability and transforms it into resilience. In every moment of weakness, His love reminds us that we are never alone, never forgotten, and never without the strength to keep going. It is a love that sustains us, uplifts us, and empowers us to face whatever lies ahead, knowing that His strength is made perfect in our weakness. God's love brings healing to the brokenhearted, offering comfort, restoration, and hope to those who are burdened by pain and sorrow. Life is filled with moments of heartbreak, loss, rejection, failure, and disappointment can leave wounds that seem impossible to heal. In these moments, the love of God is a balm for our souls, a source of peace and renewal that reaches into the deepest corners of our pain. His love is not distant or passive. It is an active force that meets us in our brokenness and begins the process of healing. When we experience heartbreak, it's natural to feel isolated or forgotten. Pain can make us believe that we are alone in our suffering or that no one truly understands what we're going through. But God's love tells a different story. He is intimately aware of our pain, and His heart is moved by our struggles. Psalm 34:18 assures us, "The Lord is near to the brokenhearted and saves the crushed in spirit." This verse is a reminder that God is not far away during our darkest moments. On the contrary, His love draws closer to us when we are hurting, wrapping us in His presence and offering comfort that surpasses understanding. God's love brings healing not only through His presence, but also through His promises. In Scripture, He speaks words of hope and restoration to those who are hurting. He promises to bind up the wounds of the brokenhearted, to turn mourning into dancing, and to replace ashes with beauty. These promises are not empty words. They are a reflection of His faithfulness and His desire to see us whole. Even when we cannot see the path to healing, His love reminds us that He is at work, gently mending the pieces of our broken hearts. The process of healing through God's love often begins with the simple act of surrender. When we carry pain, it's easy to hold onto it tightly, believing that we must bear it alone. But God invites us to lay our burdens at His feet. In Matthew 11:28, Jesus says, "Come to me, all who labor and are heavy laden, and I will give you rest." This invitation is a profound expression of His love, a reminder that we don't have to face our pain alone. When we surrender our hurt to Him, His love begins to soothe our wounds and lift the weight of our sorrow. God's love also brings healing by helping us to see ourselves through His eyes. Pain and heartbreak can distort our perception of who we are, leading us to feel unworthy, unloved, or inadequate. But His love tells us a different story. It reminds us that we are fearfully and wonderfully made, that we are precious in His sight, and that nothing can separate us from His love. This truth has the power to reshape our identity, replacing the lies of pain with the confidence and security of knowing that we are deeply loved. Another way God's love heals is by teaching us the power of forgiveness. When we are hurt by others, the wounds can run deep, and the burden of resentment can weigh heavily on our hearts. But through His love, God shows us how to forgive, not as a way of excusing wrongdoing, but as a means of freeing ourselves from the chains of bitterness. Forgiveness is not easy, but it is a gift we receive through His love, and a gift we are called to extend to others. In forgiving, we experience the healing power of grace, both for ourselves and for those who have wronged us. God's love also uses time and community as tools for healing. While the wounds of the heart may not heal overnight, His love provides patience and the assurance that restoration will come. He often works through the people around us, surrounding us with friends, family, or spiritual mentors who can walk with us through our pain. In these relationships, we see his love in action, a tangible reminder that we are not alone and that he is present through the kindness and support of others. Perhaps the most beautiful aspect of God's healing love is that it transforms our pain into purpose. While heartbreak can feel meaningless in the moment, his love has the power to redeem even the most painful experiences. He uses our trials to deepen our faith, to refine our character, and to equip us to help others who are walking through similar struggles. The wounds we carry become testimonies of his healing power, stories of his love that we can share to encourage and uplift others. In every moment of heartbreak, God's love is a constant source of hope. It reminds us that our pain is not the end of the story and that healing is possible. His love does not erase our struggles, but it gives them meaning and transforms them into something beautiful. As we walk through the process of healing, his love remains a steady presence, guiding us, strengthening us, and reminding us that we are never alone. The love of God is a love that heals, restores, and renews. It reaches into the deepest places of our pain and offers the comfort and peace that only he can provide. No matter how broken we may feel, his love assures us that we are cherished, valued, and held in his hands. It is a love that carries us through the darkest nights and leads us into the light of hope and wholeness. God's love empowers us to forgive, a transformative truth that can break the chains of resentment and bitterness, freeing us to live in peace and harmony. Forgiveness is one of the most powerful expressions of God's love, as it mirrors the very heart of the gospel. The act of forgiving is often difficult and painful, especially when we have been deeply hurt by others. Yet, the love that God extends to us through Jesus Christ equips us with the grace to forgive and to experience the freedom that comes with it. Forgiveness is not natural to the human experience. When we are wronged, our instinct is often to seek justice, to hold on to our pain, or to harbor anger toward the one who has caused us harm. These emotions are valid, and in many cases the wounds we bear are deep and deserving of compassion. However, God calls us to rise above these natural impulses and forgive as he has forgiven us. Ephesians 4:32 instructs us, "Be kind to one another, tender-hearted, forgiving one another, as God in Christ forgave you." The forgiveness God offers us through Christ is not based on whether we deserve it or not. It is given freely, out of his immense love for us. Similarly, he calls us to extend forgiveness, even when it seems undeserved or difficult. One of the most profound aspects of God's love is that it teaches us that forgiveness is not just for the person who has wronged us, but for our own healing. When we hold on to unforgiveness, we carry a heavy burden of resentment that can poison our hearts and minds. It keeps us tethered to the past and hinders our emotional and spiritual growth. Unforgiveness often leads to bitterness, anxiety, and broken relationships, creating a barrier between us and the peace that God desires for us. But when we choose to forgive, we break free from that bondage. Forgiveness doesn't mean that the wrongdoer's actions are excused or that the pain disappears, but it allows us to release the hold that bitterness has over us. It opens the door for God's healing love to flow into our hearts and minds. God's forgiveness is radical and unconditional. He forgives not because we are worthy, but because his love for us is vast and overflowing. This is exemplified in the story of the prodigal son, where the father forgives his wayward son without hesitation or condemnation. The father's actions demonstrate the extravagant love of God, who welcomes us back with open arms, regardless of how far we have strayed. In the same way, we are called to forgive others, not because they have earned our forgiveness, but because God has forgiven us first. This truth transforms the way we view forgiveness. It is not an act of justice or repayment, it is an act of grace rooted in God's love. Forgiveness is also a way for us to reflect God's character to the world. As Christians, we are called to be ambassadors of Christ's love, and one of the most powerful ways we can demonstrate that love is through the act of forgiveness. When we forgive those who have wronged us, we show the world that God's love is greater than human anger or hatred. We demonstrate the power of grace and the possibility of reconciliation. This is especially important in a world that is often divided by hurt, misunderstanding, and unforgiveness. Our willingness to forgive is a testimony to the transformative power of God's love in our lives. Yet forgiveness doesn't come easily. It requires vulnerability, humility, and a willingness to trust God with our pain. There are times when the hurt runs so deep that we feel unable to forgive. In these moments, it is important to remember that forgiveness is a process. It may not happen all at once, and it may require God's continued healing work in our hearts. But the good news is that God's love is patient and persistent. He walks with us through the process of healing, helping us to release the anger and hurt we hold on to and replacing it with His peace. His love gives us the courage to forgive, even when we feel weak or incapable of doing so. God's love also teaches us that forgiveness is not only about forgiving others, it is also about forgiving ourselves. Often we find it difficult to forgive ourselves for our own mistakes, failures, or shortcomings. We may feel unworthy of God's love or forgiveness, and this can lead to feelings of shame or guilt. But God's love frees us from this self-condemnation. Romans 8:1 declares, "There is therefore now no condemnation for those who are in Christ Jesus." When we embrace God's forgiveness, we release ourselves from the burden of guilt and shame. We no longer have to live in the prison of our past mistakes. His love sets us free to move forward in grace, knowing that we are forgiven, redeemed, and loved. Forgiveness, empowered by God's love, brings healing not only to our relationships with others, but also to our own hearts. It restores peace, nurtures reconciliation, and strengthens the bonds that hold us together. It allows us to move beyond pain and bitterness and step into the freedom that God has for us. In forgiving others, we become more like Christ, who forgave even those who crucified Him. As we experience the healing power of forgiveness, we become vessels of that same love to a broken world, bringing hope, peace, and restoration to others. Ultimately, God's love teaches us that forgiveness is not just a command, it is a gift. It is a gift that allows us to experience true freedom, peace, and healing. It is a gift that frees us from the grip of anger, resentment, and bitterness. And it is a gift that reflects the very heart of God, a heart that forgives us, loves us, and offers us grace beyond measure. Through His love, we are empowered to forgive, to heal, and to reflect His love to the world around us. God's love offers unwavering hope in moments of despair, providing us with the strength to endure even the most challenging circumstances. Life can sometimes feel overwhelming, with situations that seem impossible to overcome. Whether we face personal struggles, loss, disappointment, or periods of deep uncertainty, the weight of these trials can leave us feeling hopeless. In these dark moments, God's love shines through as a beacon of hope, guiding us through the storm and reminding us that we are never alone. Hope is the anchor that holds us steady when everything else seems to be falling apart. It is what keeps us moving forward when the road ahead seems unclear. Yet, hope is not always easy to find. In times of hardship, it is common to feel as though hope is slipping away, like a distant memory or an unreachable goal. However, God's love reminds us that hope is not merely a fleeting emotion, but a firm foundation that is deeply rooted in His promises. His love is the source of our hope, and it gives us the assurance that no matter how difficult our circumstances may be, there is always something to hold on to. In the Bible, we are reminded that hope in God is not based on our circumstances or our own strength, but on the unshakable character of God Himself. Psalm 31:24 encourages us to be strong, and let your heart take courage, all you who wait for the Lord. This verse points to the truth that our hope is not dependent on the outcome of our trials, but on the faithfulness of God to keep His promises. His love is constant, unwavering, and unchanging no matter what we may face. This truth gives us the confidence to hope, even in the midst of uncertainty, because we know that God is with us and that He is working all things for our good. The hope that comes from God's love is not simply a vague feeling of optimism. It is a deep, steadfast trust in His ability to bring about good in our lives, even through difficult circumstances. Romans 8:28 assures us that we know that in all things God works for the good of those who love Him, who have been called according to His purpose. This verse reminds us that no matter what we are going through, God is at work behind the scenes, orchestrating events and guiding us toward His ultimate plan for our lives. His love gives us the hope that our current struggles are not the end of the story, but part of a bigger picture that He is carefully and lovingly unfolding. Even in moments when we feel the weight of grief, loss, or sorrow, God's love provides a hope that transcends our immediate pain. Jesus Himself experienced sorrow and suffering, and in His death and resurrection, He demonstrated that even the greatest of losses can be redeemed. The ultimate hope we have as believers is that death and suffering are not the final word. Because of God's great love, we have the hope of eternal life, a hope that one day all tears will be wiped away and all pain will be healed. This eternal perspective allows us to endure the hardships of this life, knowing that they are temporary and that something far greater awaits us in God's presence. God's love also gives us the hope that we are not alone in our struggles. In times of despair, it can be easy to feel isolated, as though no one understands what we are going through. But God's love assures us that He is always with us, even in the darkest moments. Psalm 34:18 reminds us, "The Lord is near to the brokenhearted and saves the crushed in spirit." God's presence in our lives is a constant source of comfort and hope. He is not distant or indifferent to our suffering. Rather, He draws near to us and offers His peace, His guidance, and His strength when we are weak. Moreover, God's love empowers us to share this hope with others. When we experience the hope that comes from His love, we are called to pass it on to those who are struggling around us. Our hope in God becomes a testimony to the world of His faithfulness and goodness. In times of despair, when others are lost in their own hopelessness, we have the opportunity to offer the hope that we have found in God's love. This hope is not just for ourselves, it is a light that we are meant to share with those in need. Hope is also cultivated through the practice of trusting in God's timing. Often, when we are in the midst of a difficult situation, we want immediate relief or answers. However, God's love teaches us to trust in His perfect timing and His wisdom. His love assures us that He knows what is best for us, and His plans are always for our ultimate good. Even when we cannot see the way forward, we can trust that God is leading us step by step toward the hope that He has promised. The hope found in God's love also calls us to a life of perseverance. It is easy to lose hope when things don't seem to be improving, or when the answers we long for don't come quickly. But the Bible encourages us to be patient and steadfast, knowing that God's love is at work, even when we don't see immediate results. James 1:12 says, "Blessed is the one who perseveres under trial, because having stood the test, that person will receive the crown of life that the Lord has promised to those who love Him." Our perseverance through trials is not in vain. It is a testament to the hope that we have in God's love, and it leads to greater growth and deeper intimacy with Him. Ultimately, God's love gives us the hope that no matter what we face in life, we are never without purpose or direction. His love empowers us to keep moving forward, even when the future is unclear, because we know that He is with us every step of the way. His love is a light in the darkness, a constant reminder that no matter how difficult the journey may be, there is always hope in Him. This hope transforms our perspective, our actions, and our ability to face life's challenges with faith and courage. It is a hope that cannot be shaken by circumstances because it is firmly grounded in the eternal love of God.